This is another episode of the Post Purchase Podcast, John. I'm super excited today. We've been trying to get this particular set of guests on for a while now. We're super excited. We have a very, very special guest, and we're super excited to dive into a lot of different ways that Amazon sellers can grow, as always, Sean.
Definitely. So when I first spoke to this guest on the phone, I was amazed at the vast footprint that their company has across the planet, and so many sellers that they're working with. So Seth and I are always wanting to bring you the best information, the latest strategies, and a lot of variety of information, if you will, for us Amazon sellers who are working in our home vacuum. We think that we're all alone, but actually there are tens of thousands of us out there that are willing to help each other. So our goal is to bring that information out to you. So without further ado, Seth, in this episode of the Post Purchase Podcast, which you almost forgot the name of the show, let me go ahead and add special guests, Brittany Dobins, as well as Laura West of AVASK. Girls, say hello.
Woo!
Hi
Well,
there. Thank you for having
Excited to have you.
us.
yeah, thank you so much. I'm Brittany Dobins. I'm one of the BDO's business development officers here at AVASK, and based in the Madrid office.
My name's Laura West. I'm based in the UK office in Southampton. And obviously I have a similar role to Brittany where we discuss with sellers what they need and we try and find them some solutions.
Oh, go, Sean. We rarely have two guests, so this is going to be a fun one. So, Brittany and Laura, you guys are attacking maybe a similar role within a pretty large company of Ask. But before we get in too far, girls, if you don't mind, let us know, what you guys do. What does Avask do, and how does this set the stage for helping Amazon sellers around the world?
Sure. Well, our main goal is to help Amazon sellers expand their businesses and feel comfortable doing that in Europe, in the United States. And we take care of what you would say is like the boring tax sort of complicated stuff so that sellers can focus on selling more and the stuff that they love to do. So we have an international team. We speak 23 different languages, and that's my little spin if Laura wants to add anything.
Yeah, definitely. So as Brittany said, obviously our focus is the seller. We do work with a lot of Amazon sellers, but could be sellers from all different platforms as well. And we obviously have our offices around the world that are able to communicate with tax offices, which nobody likes to do. Also to make sure we can assist with different levels on customs. It could be for new legislation that comes through that sellers have to adhere to, that enables them to not get blocked and things like that. So that's really our focus.
Okay, I love it. So here's what I like to do. We have the initial introduction, so folks know who you are and what you're doing. But what I like to do is have you go back to when you first started helping sellers around the world, and give us an idea of not only who your perfect target client is, but also a case study, if you would, Brittany, about someone that you've helped through the trenches. You kind of held your hand and steered the ship while they were going through a hard time in their business, maybe dealing with the taxes, which is sort of it's a 4-letter word for us entrepreneurs. We just want to continue to make the cash register ring, right? And not really focus on the details. So let us know where that all started and who your perfect customer is.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you a little bit about my background. I have a business and law background and have been in the e-commerce world for a few years now. At first, I was working with an e-commerce company selling on Amazon, doing business development. And then I have another experience working with Avask as more of a service provider. Just to give you a specific case, essentially with Amazon, when you're selling in Europe, the big key is if you're storing your goods in a country, you want to make sure you're VAT registered. And so a very simple case is that a lot of United States clients who have LLCs, maybe they don't know this rule. And so they were storing goods, selling on Amazon without VAT numbers, and they had issues with the tax authority. So being able to just guide them a little bit through that process, getting them VAT registered so that they could stay compliant, was important for me. And yeah.
Amazing. So, Laura, let's talk a little bit about how you help sellers grow their business, because at the end of the day, our podcast speaks directly to Amazon sellers who are, in the trenches, entrepreneurs looking to grow their brands, grow their presence, and ultimately grow their profit. So, what do you guys do on a day-to-day basis that helps sellers end up with more money in their pocket?
Yeah. So there's a whole host of different ways that we could assist a seller to do that. So for example, we'll have, sellers that contact us to get, mainly it's the free consultation. So to understand, okay, what do you want to do and what are your requirements to do that? So for example, a seller wants to expand and sell into Europe or into the UK. So we would give them the steps that they would need to follow to do that, to ensure that when the goods, for example, are imported, that they're not blocked at the border, to ensure that they're using all the best different kinds of schemes that they can use that are available in those countries. So, for example, when you're importing, sometimes you have particular schemes that allow you to actually not pay certain costs. So everybody wants to hear about that. That's one thing that sellers are very pleased about. And of course, as we're following the legislation as a company that is required to do that, we're able to be at the forefront and make sure that we're giving all those pieces of information to sellers. So could be, for example, a company wants to expand into France, for example. So we would suggest, okay, where are you looking to import? They might, have an initial idea of what they're going to do after speaking to their transporter, but we will give them other options and explain, this is what your costs are going to be for this option, and this is what your other option is. And then they can go back and reevaluate and see, oh, okay, actually, maybe I can save some money here. And so that's what we're doing on a day-to-day basis.
Wow. Great explanation, Laura. So let me ask, I understand that you girls and your company are working with 10,000 sellers around the world, which is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
What do you see Amazon sellers in particular? What mistakes are you seeing sellers make before, and this is for you, Brittany, what mistakes are sellers making before they engage your company, AVASK?
Sure. I would say first is underestimating the tax office. Um, and I guess the second thing I would say is making sure you have that VAT number for importing into countries, as well as making sales. And then in Europe, a big thing is that you want to make sure you take that VAT number and take it into account in the final sales price that you choose on Amazon, because unlike in the United States, it's not added on after like sales tax works. So really understanding like your VAT requirements. And then another tip I would say is in terms of posting listings, making sure that the language is localized to German, for instance, if you're going to be selling in Germany, making sure you have French language, because that really will increase sales in those countries. So those are some common mistakes and tips that I would say.
Great. So Laura, when you're looking at the average Amazon seller that you're dealing with, like I said, we're generally speaking to Amazon sellers here. What are the common mistakes that they're making when they are working through this regulation? They're all excited because they're entering into a new market. They're starting to make new sales. Are there particular pitfalls or holes that they're going to fall in that maybe they could avoid if they just knew what to look for?
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, there are a couple of things that can go wrong. So, for example, a seller might be really eager to proceed, and they've spoken to their shipping company, and their goods are already in transit, but they haven't actually got a VAT number or an EORI number for those goods to cross the border. So then you'll find that the goods arrive to the country that they want to sell into. They're waiting at the border. They haven't got the necessary documents that they need. And so they're actually paying storage fees to the customs authorities to hold those goods when actually they want to put them into the Amazon FBA center, but they can't do that because they haven't done the necessary prep before. So that's a huge, mistake that can just by having that consultation call or just going through and prepping before would allow you to plan for that and say, okay, maybe we can't launch before this quarter, maybe we're going to launch next quarter. Just so you've got everything planned out, so you don't find yourself in that situation where you're just putting out unnecessary costs to the customs authorities of all places.
Solid advice, Laura. So for those folks that are watching this on our social channels later and listening to it on the audio version, most sellers, they're like, as you understand, expanding into other marketplaces is just a great addition to sales and profits. So when should a U.S. based seller, which most of our audience are U.S. based sellers, when should they be looking to expand into these other marketplaces? And when you see this happen, Laura, what do you see as far as percentage in sales growth once they do expand into the other markets?
So it really depends. A lot of sellers, I think, can be quite overwhelmed and think, okay, if I'm going to expand into Europe, I have to do everything all at once. But there are options of just expanding, for example, to the UK, where you have the shared language. So that's obviously an option. Of course, some things need to be localized in terms of, English. American English is not always the same as English. So just be careful on that. So I think one thing is to look at it in, maybe your turnover in the US is doing really well. You've already established, your business, and you're not having to spend all your time managing that. I think that would be a good time to look into UK or Europe or other marketplaces where you've done your product research. You know that the competition and what they're pricing their products at is going to work for you and what you can price your products at, after taking into consideration shipping costs and also timeframes as well. So for example, if they're looking to expand into Europe, you don't have to then start registering everywhere, and you have the whole of Europe that you have to look at. You can just start in one country. So in terms of where the seller is when they decide to expand, it's really difficult to say, because we actually have some sellers that will start straight away in Europe or in UK and will just start from scratch. We don't always work with already established sellers, but I would say if you're already got an activity and you're that's rolling along smoothly and you're not having any issues there, then definitely I would say any time is a good time to expand if you have something established and you're comfortable there and you're ready for the next challenge.
That's really great feedback, Laura. So I'm going to ask Brittany or Laura, whoever feels more comfortable, to answer this. And we like to keep the show a little bit tactical sometimes and give people, things that they can walk away with and say, okay, I know exactly what to do. So you guys have lots of sellers that you work with. You work with a lot of different countries. So what we're looking for, and maybe you can point us in the right direction, is where's the pocket of opportunity that maybe is not obvious? Where should I, just like as you mentioned, Laura, you said, maybe you don't have to do everything all at once, but if I'm going to pick that first step, is the UK the best place just because it's English speaking? Or are you seeing that the average seller is, when they expand to Germany or Italy or France, are they getting an outsized return? Are they making more sales than what they should be, basically, because people aren't really paying attention? Where is that today?
Yeah, I think I can answer that one. So I would say the big four would be Germany, France, Italy, and Spain in that order. Germany is a $115 billion e-commerce market. So there's a lot of potential there, a lot of people shopping online. And overall, the EU is a $750 billion market. So it's really similar to what you would see in the United States. And just to add on to what Laura said before, if you're having success in the US, there's really no reason why you wouldn't have success coming over to the EU.
That's great. Thank you for that. Do you have a follow-up on that, Laura?
Yes, I'd say that after Brexit, that did put off a lot of sellers, which is understandable. But one thing that I try to remind sellers is that in the UK, when we're all shopping online, we are actually restricted to buying items that are in the UK. So if we're ordering from the US or from Europe, there's going to be higher fees, a longer wait time. So actually, the competition between sellers, you could say, has decreased in the UK, because now the only sellers that you're competing against, if you are holding stock and selling in the UK, are other sellers that are also in the UK. So you don't have that competition in Europe and US and other countries. So it's definitely somewhere to consider if you're unsure. Obviously, product research is paramount. You need to make sure that your product is going to sell and that you can price it in a way that's competitive with other sellers that are already existing. But just taking that into account and maybe not seeing Brexit as a deterrent, but actually as a benefit, and how can you actually turn that around and make that work for your business. So yeah, I'd say.
Great. So before we run out of time, we like to keep these episodes less than 20 minutes. Can you think of, either one of you ladies, can you think of a case study where you brought someone in and completely transformed their expansion, making it an easier, smoother road to travel?
Yeah. Are you going, Brittany?
You go for it.
So yeah, I would say there was a case where the seller came through to us, and unfortunately they had a tax investigation with the UK. So as Brittany was saying, the tax officers do not mess around. They will contact Amazon and actually block your account, so you can't make any sales. And sometimes they'll extend that block to Europe or to other countries where you're selling, even if the problem is only in the UK. So what we did with that case is we became the correspondent for that company, which is what we do, and we take over a VAT number. So we would be the contact for HMRC, for example. And what we were able to do was to take over that account, contact HMRC, regulate all the returns and everything that needed to be kept up to date. And they were then able to go back onto their Amazon account and restart selling. After that had been shut, they had, obviously the account block, which prevented them from making any sales. So that's just one example of how we could help.
That's
Those
amazing.
tax offices are pretty grueling, aren't they? Sometimes. I mean, if we didn't have such aggressive tax offices, maybe we'd be speaking English instead of American English, right?
Yeah.
All we had to do was pay taxes on the tea, I think. So, so Laura, I don't know much about you, but Brittany, she wants more travel in her life, and she loves this phenomenon in Spain known as paddle tennis. So, Brittany, why paddle tennis?
It's fun, and honestly, in Spain, it's really popular to have a beer after, which is it's like the third set. So that's why I love paddle.
All right. So Laura, what's your passion?
So I really like cycling. So it's the way I get to work and the way I get home from work. So that's my passion. I've actually done a cycle tour from the Eiffel Tower to Blackpool Tower. So that's from Paris to the north of England. I don't know if you've ever dared to go there.
I don't know. How did you cross the channel? Did you cycle on the train?
Boat. So we cheated a little bit on we didn't swim it. But no, so
but were you actually cycling on the boat?
No.
Okay, all right. Just making sure you're not going in circles.
I didn't have a break on the boat.
I've been through the channel myself, so I love that. Only going east. I didn't come back the other way, but yeah.
Wow.
Good time. So Seth, we're a little bit out of time. So you want to ask a couple fun questions and then take us out of here?
Yeah, definitely. So Brittany, let's start with you. So we always ask 2 fun questions at the end just to peer into your experience in the world. So Brittany, what is your favorite business book?
Yeah, I would go with The Online Hustle by Melanie Shivangu and Angelos. Yeah, I think it's a great way for e-commerce sellers to have good insights into expanding throughout the world, and definitely recommend it.
The Online Hustle.
Yeah.
Amazing. All right, Laura, what about you?
So I would have to say probably the same. It's very short. It's a short book that you don't have to spend too much time, and the tips are really straight to the point as well. So you're not, a lot of times when you read a book, they have, a 10-page intro that you have to sort of get through. But this one doesn't. Is straight to the point. So yeah, I would say the same.
I like it.
Great. This is amazing. So thanks so much, girls. My name is Sean Hart. That's Seth Stevens. This has been an episode of the Post Purchase Podcast. We're looking forward to having you ladies over on a webinar where we can dive a little bit deeper into AVASK. I loved hanging out with you here, and definitely appreciate you spending some time with Seth and myself.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you soon.
Until next time.
Take care.
Thank you.